Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. I liked Calvin from the age of 18 to 22. It was everyone's favorite pastime to see me run after him and do silly things for him. When someone asked why he didn't just reject me if he didn't like me, Calvin just shrugged and said it was entertaining. It seemed like from that day on, the overwhelming love suddenly ebbed away. I stopped bothering him, took off the necklace he gave me, and became much quieter. When rumors about him and other girls surfaced, I just brushed it off. When he brought his new girlfriend to parties, I no longer felt jealous or made a scene. Then he said he was really getting married and personally handed me an invitation. Everyone was waiting for me to break down, waiting for me to regret it. Even his best friend Henry questioned me aggressively. "You're really not going to see him?" I frowned, my voice trembling and broken. "Henry, can you get off my back before asking me that question?" It was the first time Calvin brought a date to a friend's gathering. It had been 3 months since our last meeting, which was almost a miracle. My friends around me whispered comforting words. "Gina, if you can't handle it later, just make up an excuse and leave. Let's not make a scene. It's Jeffrey's birthday today." I smiled but didn't say anything. Calvin's new girlfriend was very pretty and suited him well. When they walked in hand, everyone subconsciously looked at me. I just sat quietly, wearing a faint smile the whole time. "Let me introduce you to my girlfriend, Mandy," Calvin said when introducing his girlfriend, his gaze glancing lightly over my face. I didn't change my expression. My smile remained the same, not even a hint of a frown. Calvin didn't look at me again. The atmosphere in the private room gradually became lively. When it was time to cut the cake, the place turned into a mess. I used to love being mischievous. I would smear cake on others and then hide behind Calvin. Although he was a bit annoyed, finding it childish and boring, he would sometimes protect me. But this time I didn't join in the fun. However, my close friends didn't spare me when they came after me with the cake. I evaded Calvin all the time. My face and dress were smeared with cream, and I begged for mercy as they moved on to target others. As I walked through the bustling crowd to leave, intending to clean up in the restroom, Calvin stopped me just as I stepped outside. "Gina." I instinctively turned back. The light from the corridor cast shadows on Calvin's face, leaving large patches of darkness. We were standing close, but I couldn't make out the emotions in his eyes. "Do you have something to say?" Calvin didn't speak, just looked down at my neck. "You changed your necklace." I was taken aback for a moment but quickly regained my composure. "Yes, I did. I wore the previous one for 4 years. It was the gift he gave me on my 18th birthday, and it used to be my favorite." He smirked, his smile a bit unreadable. "Why didn't you come to the last gathering?" I was momentarily stunned, feeling a bit hot. Around the ears, I was planning to come, but Henry asked me last minute. We ended up bailing on our friends, avoiding me. Calvin asked nonchalantly. "Something came up suddenly, so I couldn't make it." Calvin seemed skeptical but didn't press further. "What do you think of Mandy?" I replied sincerely. "She's very beautiful, graceful, and clearly comes from a good family background." Calvin stared at me intensely without blinking. "I think so too. That's why I feel like getting married suddenly." "Sounds great. Make sure to send me an invitation then," Calvin chuckled and said. "Sure thing. I'll be the first to deliver it to you." With that, he seemed too lazy to bother with me anymore and walked away without another glance. I also didn't linger and hurried to the restroom to clean the cream off my face. But just as I reached the restroom's entrance, I spotted Henry standing there smoking. "Aren't you on a business trip?" I was surprised and began wiping my face with a tissue. "I came back early. Otherwise, I wouldn't have caught the show just now," Henry said, putting out the cigarette and looking at me through the mirror with a half-smile. I turned and balled up the tissue, throwing it at his face. "What do you mean, Henry?" He didn't dodge and seemed quite pleased. "What? I'm away for just 2 days, and you two want to rekindle things." "Rekindle? Nothing has ignited." I glared at him without any fondness. Henry nodded. "That's true." Then he suddenly took a step closer, saying, "Don't move." "What's up?" Henry bent down and wiped off a bit of cream that had stuck to my earlobe. "Your skirt is dirty too." "I know. I got you a new one on the business trip. Do you want to try it?" As I followed Henry upstairs to the room, I felt a bit dazed. We had never gotten along well. He used to bully me since we were kids, saying I was too fragile and cried too often. Yet he teased me every day. Later, as I ran after Calvin, the rest of the circle found it amusing, but there was never any malice in it. Henry, however, seemed to detest how I was clinging to him. We had almost no contact these years, but everything had become odd since that night when circumstances led to us having relations. I had initially deleted him and decided to cut off all ties for good, but Henry seemed to be serious this time. The last time we met, I was planning to have a clear conversation with him. Somehow we ended up in bed again, and the experience the second time was significantly better than the first. I couldn't help but size up Henry in the elevator mirror. He was different from those playboys. He had spent a few years in the military, and his physique was impeccable. I thought of his abs, the V-line, and his firm muscles, remembering how I had called him a beast as I scratched his back until it bled. Instead of getting mad, he tried awkwardly to soothe me, stirring up an indescribable sense of arousal. Henry suddenly pulled me closer to him. "What are you thinking of? Your ears are red. Your body. Oops, I mean how you maintain your figure." I covered my face, embarrassed. Even look at him, but I had made up my mind. Tonight would be the last time. After it's over, I must make it clear with him. Set boundaries, cut it off. Let this secret rot in our bellies. As soon as we stepped out of the elevator and entered the room, Henry pushed me against the door. He's more experienced now. He even remembered to put his hands on my back to prevent it from getting sore. "Shower first." Between deep kisses, I pushed him lightly as I gasped. Henry seemed a bit insatiable. His palm pressed against my lower back. Then with a little force, he pulled me into his arms. He leaned down to kiss me, the kisses growing deeper. My legs were a bit weak. I couldn't even stand steadily. My high heels decided to kick off my shoes and step on his feet. Henry's breathing suddenly became erratic. He lifted me up and carried me towards the bathroom, almost as if he was about to crush me. Warm water showered down from above, enveloping both of us completely drenched. Henry cupped my face, kissing me repeatedly. The cold and stern look in his eyes softened by the warm water when he gazed deeply into my eyes. I felt a flicker of attraction. "Gina," he whispered as his forehead rested against mine, his voice husky. I felt a bit dazed, my response choked by his voice. He clasped my fingers hoarsely, asking, "Is it more comfortable than last time?" I bit my lip and refused to answer, just sharply dug my nails into his muscular arm, leaving a deep scratch. The last encounter ended with Henry carrying me to the bathroom to shower. I leaned against the edge of the bathtub, watching him shower. The hot water splashed on his broad, strong back, creating numerous splashes. Perhaps the experience was too good, as over the years my resentment towards him seemed to have faded. But I knew very well that we were not meant for each other. It's best for everyone to end it early. Henry lifted me out of the bathtub, wrapped in a large robe. I sat comfortably on the sink, letting him blow dry my hair. After drying my hair, he affectionately carried me back to the room. I rested on his shoulder, half asleep, calling out his name. "Henry, let's not see each other again tomorrow. Don't come looking for me again. I'll block you in a moment, block all your social accounts. No one is allowed to talk about our affair." Henry suddenly stopped in his tracks. "Gina," his voice was heavy. I wearily lifted my eyelids to glance at him, then dozed off. He laid me on the bed, standing by the bed. He chuckled self-deprecatingly. After a while he said, "Gina, you really have no conscience." But I didn't hear it. The next morning, right in front of Henry, I deleted all his contact information. He sat on the sofa, expressionless, with a cigarette between his fingers but never taking a puff, wearing the new dress he bought me. I smiled casually at him. "I'm leaving for about a month." After that, Henry and I did not see each other again, but it seemed like a mistake in perception. Calvin's appearance in front of me became more frequent. I started declining some unimportant friends, ND gatherings, trying to minimize the chance of running into him. Until a friend got engaged, avoiding him became inevitable. That day, Calvin drank a bit too much and somehow went berserk. "Gina, do you have a problem with me?" I was a bit baffled. "You're drunk, Calvin. Go rest for a while. We've been friends for so many years. You're avoiding me." It seems like I've done something to upset you. I've been busy lately. All right, Gina, I know what's on your mind. Calvin's smart, but you can't do anything about it. You're nothing compared to Mandy. I found it quite amusing. What do you mean I can't do anything? You're really drunk. I stood up to leave, but Calvin grabbed my arm. You used to be so jealous before. What happened? Now you don't care because you know it's useless. I furrowed my brows and forcefully pulled my arm away. I then noticed Henry standing not far away, observing the scene with a smirk. That pent-up frustration welled up inside of me. Somehow I took out my phone. Henry had sent a few friend requests before which I never accepted, but now I agreed. Then I sent him a message. "Wanna meet?" Henry hesitated for half a minute, then replied, "Sure. Same room as last time." After sending the message, I immediately blocked him again. As the engagement party was winding down, I informed my friends and left early. Calvin asked where I was going, but I didn't respond. A proud man like him wouldn't bother chasing after me. As I was leaving the reception hall, I heard a few friends calling out to Henry. "Henry, you're leaving too? Didn't we agree to continue drinking later? Got some private matters. I'll host another time." Calvin stood up, trying to intercept. What private matter could be more important than Sam's engagement? What have you been up to these past few days? I stood behind lush greenery, watching them on this engagement day. Henry was also dressed in a formal black suit, standing next to Calvin. He was even taller. Unlike Calvin's lean figure, his physique was built through hardships in the military. The saying goes, he looks thin in clothes, but his muscular build seemed tailor-made for him. I recalled those 2 nights between us. Henry could lift me with one hand. He didn't stop, not even from the bedroom to the bathroom. Later, thinking about how I couldn't control myself then, I created that absurd scenario where his waist and abdomen were soaked. My cheeks suddenly felt hot again. I raised my hand, using the back of it to cool my burning cheeks. When I looked at Henry again, it was as if he sensed my gaze. He glanced in my direction. I involuntarily took a step back, feeling a bit flushed and a racing heart for some inexplicable reason. Indeed, there is something urgent. Calvin became more curious. "What's going on? You look so serious. Is Henry in love or something?" "Yeah, I've seen Henry constantly checking his phone a few times. Really falling in love, huh? Who is she? Do we know her?" Henry smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in his smile. Unexplainably, I felt that his smile seemed quite lonely. "I'll tell you, Goo. Years later, she's quite introverted and not ready to go public yet. I won't say much now, lest she gets upset if she finds out." Calvin looked at him thoughtfully. "Is it real? I've never seen any girls around you. It's just something recent." Henry glanced at Calvin firmly. "When she's ready to go public, I'll introduce her to you guys." "Okay, I won't disturb your lovey-dovey matters then." Calvin looked a bit embarrassed. Henry didn't make him feel any more uncomfortable. "I'll leave now. Let's gather again in a couple of days." "Sure, bring your girlfriend early." "Yeah, everyone's quite curious." Henry smiled and agreed before turning and leaving. It was only until he walked out of the revolving door that suddenly someone casually said, "Why does it feel like Gina and Henry have been absent from these gatherings? Are they dating each other?" Calvin suddenly felt a bit displeased. "Stop talking nonsense. Henry has always disliked Gina since childhood. You all know his temper. He can't stand clingy girls." "That's true. They both seem to find each other annoying." The topic quickly changed, but Calvin felt a heavy cloud over his heart. He looked out through the glass. Henry's figure was already out of sight. Gina had also left a long time ago. He carefully thought about it. It does seem like they are absent from every gathering, but maybe it's just a coincidence. Calvin quickly reassured himself. After all, he and Henry had been friends for so many years. He was very clear that he and Gina really couldn't stand each other. But what Calvin didn't know was, the 2 people who thought they despised each other were now on their way to the hotel, one following the other. When I came out after taking a shower, Henry was already sitting on the living room couch. "Isn't there another bathroom? Why aren't you showering?" I asked while drying my hair. Henry just half lay on the couch looking at me. "Didn't you say we shouldn't stay in touch anymore?" I glanced at him. "Well, you can leave now." A hint of self-mockery appeared in the corner of Henry's lips. but he still stood up. He walked over to me and took the towel from my hand. With long hair, I always get impatient after washing and blow-drying. He was willing to help and I was happy to enjoy it. When my hair was half-dried, Henry turned off the hairdryer. "I'll go take a shower," I lazily replied, curling up on the couch and turning on the TV. Suddenly, Henry leaned down and kissed my cheek before saying, "Wait for me for a while." After about 15 minutes, the sound of the water in the bathroom stopped. Soon, Henry pushed open the bathroom door and walked out. He only had a towel tied around his slim waist. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, a perfect inverted triangle. The shape of his chest and abs was particularly perfect. Long legs, firm buttocks with healthy,
sexy honey colored skin.
Even though we had been together many times, when I first saw his body I still felt a bit shy. I stole a few greedy glances before looking away. Henry seemed to smirk. He casually dried his hair. I dropped the towel and walked over. Before I could react, he lifted me effortlessly. "Henry," I clung tightly around his neck, glaring at him. There was a sincere smile in his eyes despite my startled expression. "Gina, what's up? Any particular position you want to try today?" he asked with a teasing tone. His kisses landed on my ear, our breaths intertwining in close proximity, creating a subtle intimacy. Before I could respond, my voice softened a bit. "It seems like you know a lot of them already." Henry chuckled pleasantly. "I've studied hard after I went back last time." "Not decent. What were you studying?" I asked. "Want to give it a try?" I pretended to be calm, but my heart was already beating wildly. "Sure, and if I'm not satisfied, I'll switch." Suddenly, Henry kissed me a bit forcefully. Before I could finish that half sentence, it was abruptly cut off, transformed into a muffled murmur that was swallowed down. His kiss was deep and intense. When we reached the bed, I was pushed down onto the soft mattress heavily by him. He untied the rope's belt. His hands, toughened from military training, had calluses, and the force was different from the previous times, more intense. I couldn't help but let out a soft moan. His breathing suddenly became ragged and heavy. "Gina." Henry's eyes were filled with desire. His voice was hoarse. "Why is it different from the last 2 times?" I gazed at him with blurred eyes, not quite understanding the meaning of his words. Yet it seemed he couldn't resist my gaze. His scorching kisses traveled down, finally lingering at the top. The fringe on the white gauze curtain swayed as if brushed by the wind from somewhere. My slender waist arched like a bow. Involuntarily, I responded to him. "Gina, do you like it?" I shook my head, biting my lip without letting go. But tears of a physical nature had already welled up in the corners of my eyes. Henry didn't force me too much. He just asked a question, and if I didn't answer, he would insist. "Gina, are you still ignoring me?" My heart shattered. "No, I'm not ignoring you," I said, gripping his arm tightly. His fingers almost dug into the sturdy flesh beside me. Henry is actually a good student. Every experience with him is much better than the last. But now he's not giving me a clear answer. It's like cutting meat with a dull knife, making me itch. "Now tell me, do you like me or not?" I didn't respond, so he pushed harder. "Yes, I like you," I finally said. "Gina, do you want to be with me?" I widened my eyes suddenly. Henry remained silent, just looking down at me from above, his eyes that I remembered as willful, but now deep and inscrutable. "You've always disliked me, right?" He smiled with lowered eyes. Even though the spring breeze was overwhelming, he remained. "Gina, I'm only asking you this once. Do you want to be with me?" I was going crazy. My body, mind, and reasoning were on the brink of collapse. In the end, desire consumed everything. "Yes, Henry." "Gina, what do you want?" "I'll give you everything." It all ended in ecstasy. The sky had long turned pitch black. Calls and messages on our phones. Half of them were from Calvin. I didn't respond, then thought for a moment and blocked all his contacts. Shortly after, Henry's phone rang. He answered, and Calvin's voice immediately came through. "Henry, where are you?" Henry reached out and pulled me into his arms. Exhausted, I collapsed in his embrace, motionless, just with my girlfriend. "Is everything okay?" "Nothing much. Just that Gina is not answering the phone." I didn't see any problem, but everyone seems worried about her. "You both live nearby. Have you seen her get home?" Henry looked at me, and I gestured for him to stay quiet. Yeah, I saw her. She's home. Okay, won't disturb your date then, Calvin joked a bit before hanging up. Henry set his phone aside and picked up mine. Unlocking it, he said, "What? Take me off the blacklist." Reluctantly, I unlocked the phone and watched as he removed all the blacklist contacts. The feeling in my heart was complex and strange. Actually, I didn't really want to block him. Keeping this kind of long-term relationship with him was quite nice, after all. Felt really good. What's wrong, Gina? Henry asked. Don't just come to me when you want something. Remember what you promised earlier. I hesitated for a moment and came up with, do you really believe what is said in bed? How silly are you? Henry seemed amused by my response. Okay, you can also deny it. Lowering his head, he held my chin. I'll go to your house tomorrow and talk to your uncle and aunt about the 3 times we agreed on. Henry, I'm really scared. I got it. I'll admit it, but give me some time, okay? Sure. Whenever you're ready to make our relationship public, we'll continue from there. I'm not that impatient. You're not that frustrated. He lightly bit my lips. You're right, you're not that frustrated. I just have to change the bedsheets every time. Henry. I was indignant and bit his chin fiercely. It was all because he was so mean stringing me along. Otherwise, why would I react so strongly? Soon after, another friend from our circle who was studying abroad returned, organizing a gathering. Henry, Calvin, and I managed to gather together for once. Calvin still brought Mandy along. In our seats, Henry and I were still far apart, courtesy of our considerate friends. After all, the time when I chased after Calvin was still fresh in everyone's memory. Henry's disdain for me could be seen even by a dog. As the alcohol flowed, the atmosphere warmed up. Someone asked Calvin, Calvin, when's your wedding with Mandy? Calvin glanced at me almost imperceptibly and affectionately embraced Mandy. Soon. We're already planning it. Everyone instinctively looked at me. I didn't even raise an eyebrow and contentedly drank my soup. The dishes that night were particularly good, and there were several that I liked. My phone vibrated. It was Henry messaging me. Would you like to take a walk after dinner? Where should we go? By the lake. There's an artificial lake nearby. The environment is quite nice. All right, I'm in. Feeling a bit full. I almost felt like I was throwing up witnessing Calvin and Mandy showing excessive affection. Let's go for a walk, I said. We can split up. You can go first and I'll join you later. Henry didn't reply immediately, but after a while he took the cigarette pack and got up. Going out for a smoke, get some fresh air. After about 10 minutes I also stood up. I'll go to the restroom. People were chatting and laughing, not paying attention to the details. What I didn't know was that when I left, Calvin eyed me several times, and as the door closed he also got up. Henry messaged me that he was waiting downstairs. Instead of going to the restroom, I went straight to the elevator. I walked through the lobby and saw him standing under a tree smoking. As I approached, he flicked the cigarette. The night breeze was a bit chilly, and I involuntarily hugged myself. Henry came over and pulled me into his arms. Without a word, he naturally kissed me, and I didn't resist, tilting my head to meet his. We kissed as if we couldn't bear to separate, not noticing a figure standing not far behind. Calvin stood on the steps with a dark expression, watching the scene. Shortly after that, news spread that Calvin was going to marry Mandy. Not long after the news came out, friends in our circle received invitations. I also got one, personally handed to me by Calvin. I took it, sincerely congratulating him. Congratulations on tying the knot. I'll be there on your wedding day. Calvin didn't seem too happy. Gina, I never thought I would marry Mandy. I always thought I would give in to you before. No need to mention these things now. I interrupted him and laughed casually. When I was young, I did a lot of stupid things because I was immature. Don't mind me, just forget about it. Calvin's last hint of a smile vanished from his face. Gina, I'm not joking. I'm really getting married. I know. Congratulations to both of you, I replied. Calvin's eyes turned cold, and he suddenly chuckled. Speaking of which, among our group, I always thought Henry would be the first to get married. Without thinking, I asked why. Calvin stared at me intently and said, because I've known for a long time that he has a girl he really likes. Henry was planning to marry that girl as soon as he reached the legal age, but something happened and it didn't work out between them. Now I'm the one who got ahead. I was stunned. A myriad of emotions surged through my mind in an instant, but eventually, they all melted into a strong sense of bitterness. No wonder Calvin had not been involved in any scandals for so many years. It turned out he had someone in his heart all along. If that night we had not gotten drunk and accidentally ended up in bed together, we would never have had any connection in this life. I never liked him. I always liked those gentle and refined guys. I never got along with him since elementary school. I always disliked him. But why, at this moment when I found out he had someone in his heart, did I feel so uncomfortable? Gina, Calvin pointed at the invitation. On card in my hand, check the time carefully, don't be late. That day, I made an appointment with my best friend to go out for drinks. My friend thought I couldn't handle the shock of Calvin marrying Mandy, but it wasn't about that. The fact that they were getting married didn't affect me at all. All I could think about was, what does the girl Henry likes look like? What kind of person does Henry like? If that girl came back to him, would he surrender immediately and reconcile with her? I even absurdly imagined them together. I couldn't distinguish whether it was because I couldn't bear his body, or because I was starting to have feelings for him. After seeing my friend off, I called Henry. When he came to pick me up, I was too drunk to stand and sat obediently on a bench by the roadside, waiting for him. I watched his car speeding towards me. I watched him stepping out of the car, his tall and slender figure. I watched his resolute yet handsome face. Suddenly I felt like crying inexplicably. When Henry walked up to me, my face was already covered in tears, but he didn't wipe them away or comfort me gently like he did in bed. He just stood there looking at me expressionlessly. The ache in my heart surged like a spring. Henry, I choked out, reaching out my hand to him. His expression softened slightly. After a few seconds, he raised his hand and brushed away the tears from my eyelashes. Gina, why are you crying? I didn't know how to tell him what I was feeling. At that moment, I just lay on his chest, crying silently for a long time. By the time I finished crying, Henry seemed a bit helpless. All right, stop crying. I'll take you home to your place. I had never stayed over at his house before, but this time I wanted to go to his place. I wanted to be with him on his bed for the whole night, but I didn't have the courage to tell him what I was thinking. Henry's house was spacious and simply laid out. I could use the bathroom freely. Don't go to my study. Pick any room you want, he said, handing me a new pair of slippers. I looked at the men's slippers shaped like little boats and couldn't help but ask him, "Don't you have any women's slippers?" "No." "Have you ever brought a girlfriend home before?" "I have." "Or haven't? Isn't it clear to you?" He was right. We had grown up together, but everyone had secrets unknown to others, and Henry was no exception. While changing into the slippers, I casually asked, "Have you ever liked a girl?" Henry stood with his arms folded, smiled, and said, "Yes." I bent over to change my slippers, but his answer made me stagger and almost fall. Henry reached out to support me. "How much have you had to drink?" "Not much." I stood up straight but stumbled again. Henry picked me up and said, "Go take a shower first." After the first round was over, I lay on the bed scrolling through my phone, and Henry went to get me some water. When he returned, I was looking at my phone with friends showing off their invitations. Messages kept popping up asking if I was going to go and surrender to Calvin. Henry coldly took my phone and came over to give me water. I refused to move. He fed me the water without my consent, picked me up, and then pressed me down on the bed again. This time he was a bit forceful. I couldn't bear it for long. "Henry, aren't you going to find him?" "Find who? Who are you talking about?" "Calvin. He's getting married. Why would I look for him? You used to be so obsessed with him every day." "Henry, Gina, answer me now. Will you go find him?" His tone was a bit harsh. "Henry, can you get off me before asking this question?" I frowned, my voice choked up by his question. "No, you have to answer me first. Will you find him?" Just like that night, he would ask a question and then push me harshly. I couldn't take it anymore. My voice trembling, I said, I won't find him. Remember what you said." "Henry, take it easy. Can't calm down." Henry lowered his head and kissed me. The kiss was deep and heavy. He had amazing stamina. I felt like a small boat adrift in the waves, being hit and battered by wave after wave, almost falling apart. Perhaps that night, Henry was too rough with the condom. The day of Calvin and Mandy's wedding had not arrived yet, but I found out I was pregnant first. I was stunned when I looked at the test report. Calvin said Henry had feelings for someone. Henry himself admitted he had feelings for someone. The two of us had no future. It was impossible. During this time at most, it was just a matter of mutual gratification to satisfy a physical longing. With Henry's temperament, he would only marry a woman he truly loved, so he wouldn't want this child. But just the thought of this possibility made tears fall. I turned off my phone and stayed in my house for 2 whole days. Finally, I made up my mind. While he was still just a tiny embryo, getting rid of him was the best choice. But when I arrived at the hospital and was about to be given the procedure, Henry rushed to the hospital. He entered the ward holding my surgery order. I had never seen his face look so grim. His sharp, untamed eyes were filled with frost, cold to the extreme. Gina. When he called my name, his voice was hoarse and trembling. The frost gradually melted but turned into deep red pain and disappointment. Why don't you want him, Henry? I sat up in shock. Gina, why don't you want him? Henry held my shoulders, his fingers trembling. Tears welled up in my eyes. Henry, I just don't want to cause you unnecessary trouble. Is it because you don't want to cause me trouble? Or is it for another reason? Without waiting for me to answer, Henry suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. You already know about Calvin and Mandy not getting married, so you decided not to have the child, right? What are you saying? I looked bewildered. But I wouldn't help you too. There was a fiery look in Henry's eyes. I just called home. My parents already know about your pregnancy, and they know I am going to marry you. Marry? Yes, marry. Henry cupped my face, wiping away the tears that were falling from my eyes. You promised me yourself. You I used to be with me, you promised to make our relationship public. Gina, the words you said cannot be taken back. But what if in the future the girl you like comes looking for you? My tears seemed like they would never dry. I looked up at him, tears still streaming down my face. Henry, I just don't want you to hate me. I don't want, in the future, if the person you like returns and I have taken the place that should have been hers, for you to resent me. So I thought, before I fell in love with you, while the child was still just an unconscious embryo, to sever the ties with you completely to avoid too much pain. Person I like. Yes, I asked you. You said you like someone. Why didn't you ask me who is the person I like? Who is it? Henry cupped my face, then suddenly smiled. Gina, go to my study, you'll find the answer there. Once again, I followed Henry back to his home. He handed me a pair of new slippers for women, especially cute and pink in my size. Wasn't I not allowed to enter your study before? You weren't allowed before, but now you are. Why? You'll know when you go. Henry seemed a bit uneasy. I'll go downstairs and get something. After saying that, he cautioned me, be careful, don't trip or bump into anything. Got it. Henry's study was quite large, lined with books. However, what was out of place was his desk and the wall behind the desk. It was covered with photos of all sizes. If you paid a little attention, you would notice every single photo had one thing in common. Each one had me in it, from kindergarten, elementary school, all the way into our adulthood, then gradually less and less. On the desk, there was a pink rhinestone-adorned photo frame that was very girly. In the frame was a picture of 2 kids. The girl was me with 2 big bows in my hair, smiling without a care in the world. The boy was him, towering over me, playing cool in front of the camera. It was a Children's Day gift I gave him. On the back, there was a crooked line of words wishing Gina and Henry everlasting friendship. I couldn't help but laugh, but as I laughed, tears fell again. I had not missed out on loving the person who had always loved me. When Henry came back with a few boxes of supplements, I was sitting in his chair reading his diary. What a jerk. He used to bully me on purpose when we were kids, making me cry. Turns out it was all Calvin's idea. He told Henry that the way boys show they like a girl is by bullying her until she cries. As he grew older, he regretted it, but it was too late. I had already fallen for the sophisticated Calvin. It turns out he never really hated me. He just attested to being manipulated by Calvin, losing himself completely to his whims. I dare not imagine how painful it must be for Henry to see all this. He has thought about giving up, about leaving forever. He considered trying to like someone else, just getting by, but in the end he couldn't. And the night I got drunk, he took me away. It was the only time in his life he threw caution to the wind. There were just 2 big words on that. No regrets. I closed the diary. Henry pushed open the study door. He looked at me, a faint blush on his cheeks. He cleared his throat before asking, "What do you want for lunch?" I leaned back in the chair and reached out my hand to him. Step by step, Henry walked over to me. He held my hand and then knelt down, gently pressing his face against my belly. "Gina, is our baby really in there?" I chuckled, lowering my head to kiss him, tears falling onto his face. "Just a few more months and she will start moving." And we stayed like that, embracing, neither of us wanting to break the peace and happiness. The day before Henry and I got married, Calvin suddenly showed up. By then I already knew about his breakup with Mandy. Well, to be exact, it was Mandy who initiated the breakup. After all, no girl in this world can endure seeing the one she likes. Even something as serious as marriage can be treated as a joke. In reality, he never intended to marry Mandy. The whole wedding invitation thing was just a passing thought meant to provoke me intentionally. It was all because that night he saw me kissing Henry. How ridiculous it was. It was from that night onward that Calvin slowly began to realize that he cared more about me than he ever thought. I listened to him tirelessly recounting all his emotional journey over the years. He was so eloquent and persuasive, but I truly didn't care and didn't want to listen. I was always very sleepy during the early stages of pregnancy. I started to doze off as he talked. "Gina, are you tired?" Calvin was a bit puzzled. He knew I used to love listening to his knowledgeable and sophisticated conversations, but that was all in the past. I had long realized that this kind of man was just not on the same level as Henry, who was a man of action. I stretched and yawned lazily. This is how it is during early pregnancy, always wanting to sleep. Calvin was completely puzzled. "Early pregnancy? What early pregnancy? You're pregnant? How can you be pregnant? How come I can't be pregnant?" Calvin seemed so noisy to me at that time. "If you're fine, you can leave. I want to sleep." "Gina, explain to me, how are you pregnant so fast? How long has it been since? And you're already pregnant?" Calvin seemed to be stuck on this idea. If he pines for what is lost, the loss becomes unreal. Of course, not because of the pregnancy. I just really like Henry. I've liked him ever since I was a kid, and then I got lost for a few years, but now I've found my way back. I stood up sincerely and advised him. "Actually, Mandy is a really good girl. Calvin, maybe you should be serious and try to win her back so you won't regret it later. Gina, don't come looking for me in the future. Henry is very jealous and insecure." As expected, Henry found out that Calvin had come to see me, and he was jealous the whole night. I had to comfort him with hugs and kisses for a while, but then Henry suddenly went to the bathroom. When he came out, he didn't let me touch him. After all, it was still early in the pregnancy. Not even 3 months in. The doctor had instructed us not to be intimate during this time. Initially, my mom wanted me to stay at home these days, but Henry insisted. After assuring both our families, he convinced me to stay. At first, we slept properly in 2 separate beds, but soon enough I couldn't resist getting into his bed to cuddle. "Gina, we really can't do this now. I don't want to do anything. I just want to cuddle." I wriggled in his arms, trying to find the most comfortable position to relax with my eyes closed, but Henry was clearly uncomfortable. "Gina, I can't sleep like this. Just hold me for a while." "Henry," I touched him and his heart fluttered. "I can't believe I ate so well. Will I feel uncomfortable later? I'll take a shower later." "Henry, is there something you forgot to tell me? What is it?" "I like you." Henry chuckled softly. His laughter was full of joy. "Gina, I love you." I snorted lightly. "All right, I love you too." After saying that, I couldn't help but laugh. In the warm night, we lay in bed holding each other tightly, laughing together. It felt like going back to the carefree time of childhood, little Gina and Henry's everlasting friendship. And as we grew older, a long loving life awaited us.